Morning you guys, it's Karen and I'm here to talk about my current skincare routine, and I cannot stress the word current enough. I might have to put that, no I wouldn't put that in bold. I was going to say I'll put it in bold in capital letters, but that's shouting, isn't it, in text, so that would be rude. But what I mean by this is, you guys know I have bought almost all of the Ordinary products, so I think I have 22, which is Stephanie Nicole just did a review of 22 herself. I'm pretty sure I have 22, 23. There's only a couple of things I don't have. I don't have the alpha arbutin, and what else do I not have? The lactic acid 5%. There's not very many that I don't have. What I've been doing with them all is testing them out on my skin for a couple of days to see if I enjoy using them, how they feel on the skin, if I notice any immediate like little bumps or anything coming up. So like with the marula oil, I used it once, got a little lump, stopped using it, then used it again, got a little spot, so I stopped using it. Things like that. The vitamin C I've tried several times and it just stings my skin too much, to 23%. So that's what I was doing, and I kept on being asked for, can I do a routine? So I thought what I'd do is I'd tell you what my routine is currently, but this is not a routine for life. This is simply me still in the testing phase of the products from the Ordinary, but I've gone through the kind of just testing them out for a couple of days, and I now know what I want to properly test, if you like. So things that I have put in my calendar, I'm doing before and after pictures after 1 month, after 2 months, etc. It's so hard to explain my skin because I'm not even sure what it was. I have got by nature extremely oily skin, and I am on hormone medication that stops a lot of that oil production, and so I would say my skin is more normal to oily but gets very dehydrated, and if I put too many products on it, it gets dry. So it's a bit of everything, but it's not a combination in the sense of it's not an oily T-zone and dry cheeks or anything like that. So I would say I would be oily skinned. That's what I would consider myself, oily skinned and acne prone. And as a kind of addition to all of this, which I think will be pretty helpful for you guys and me on YouTube, don't know why that came out sounding funny, is that the medication I take for this hormone imbalance, which is cyproterone, I have been advised to seriously consider not taking it because it has now come up more as being even more putting you at risk of a stroke, basically, and I have got a family history of that, so I need to look at that very seriously. I was going to stop it this month because you only take it for the first 10 days of each calendar month, but my husband looked at the statistics and he was saying, you know, you were miserable not on it because it made my skin so oily that there was no mascara I could put on that within an hour wouldn't be like up here on my eyes. I mean, I'm talking majorly oily. I used to go through these Clean and Clear, they're sort of plasticky things that you blot with. I would go through them like a packet every few days, you know, because I constantly be blotting oil away from my skin. So for me, it worked balancing it internally by taking medication. So if I do stop that, it will be interesting to see if I become extremely oily again, and if I do, my routine would change anyway. So I just wanted you to be aware of that. There may be quite a few videos that are my current skincare routine, but I thought I'd tell you about the Ordinary products that I am using at the moment and testing. And I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 Ordinary products that I am testing at the moment. But don't worry, I'm not just putting 10 products on my skin, I am putting them in targeted areas. So the things that the issues that I would like to address are, I have got fine lines around my eyes simply from aging, and I usually have Botox for that. The last Botox was last November, but the person that I like to do it is a long way away from me in Glasgow, and I don't know anybody in my area that does it as I need them to do it, and also money. It's a very expensive procedure. So around my eyes, I would like to try and get rid of these fine lines. I also have hooded eyes, and so when I am expressive and pull my eyebrows in, it makes them more hooded, as you can see. So if there's any way I can stop my eyebrows pulling in, then I would love to use something for that as well. Generally something for the texture of my eyelids, because I feel like my eyelids are becoming very crepey, etc. with age. I have large pores here, large visible pores. Interestingly, these pores are only a problem since I stopped using alcohol in my skincare. And you guys know I like to use alcohol-free skincare. I know what damage it does to the skin, and also with oily skin, if you continue to use alcohol, it will work, but it will dry your skin out and ask it to produce more oil, and it's a bit of a vicious cycle. However, that aside, whenever I used it was Clean and Clear I used to use religiously. It has alcohol in it, and I didn't have pores. I didn't ever have a problem with large pores, so it was kind of annoying. And I knew that whenever I stopped using my Clean and Clear or anything with alcohol in it, you could see my pores. Whenever I went back to using my Clean and Clear, you couldn't see them as much, you know. I never even noticed them when I was using that, so it was the reason I used alcohol for so long in my skincare. Anyway, so I've got these large pores that I'm working on. My foundation is kind of looking a bit rubbish around my nose, by the way, just because I've been blowing my nose. I seem to have allergies or something this morning. On the side of my nose there, I think it'll be covered up by foundation just now, but I have got what I think is just a keratosis pilaris, you know, just a little white bump. You know those little white bumps that are not whiteheads? You can try and you can't squeeze it, nothing will take it off. I've got one of those on the side of my nose, which again is actually quite useful for this skincare routine. And then on my chin here, I have some redness, some acne scarring, not a huge amount, but some. And then I've got in the sort of crease of my chin there, I've got tiny little white bumps, kind of milia. I suppose it's more milia than it is keratosis pilaris. So I'm not sure. That one is a bit more of a hard lump, whereas these are tiny little, I think they are very minute whiteheads, but I can never seem to get them to clear up. And of course I have got lines on my neck. You guys know I'm always struggling with these because of my love for self-tan and how it doesn't fill in the lines kind of thing and can make it look patchy. So I've got lines on my neck, and I've noticed the texture of my skin. I think because it's getting drier, because I don't produce as much oil, the texture can be a little bit rough looking, and so I like to use things for dry skin as well. So, and I've got, of course, I'm generally aging. I'm 44, soon to be 45. Let's talk routine. I know that for those of you that have perhaps never watched me before or don't know me well, you might think, good Lord, 10 minutes in and she's still not started the routine. But I think the background information is important for you, because some things won't apply if you don't have a similar skin to me, or if you don't have the same issues. If you have none of the issues I have and completely different issues, then this might not apply to you at all. So the morning is the most simple for me, and talking of simple, the first thing I do is I use my simple micellar water on a cotton pad. I just wipe over my eyes to take any residue off that I hadn't caught the night before, any sleep or anything like that. I turn it over and I go over the rest of my face, and it generally comes away clean unless I've been self-tanning, and then I don't rinse it off. I am going to do a video, I think, on should you rinse off micellar water, because I know that some people think you should. I don't rinse it off personally. I think you can do it either way. I don't think you should rinse it off, and I don't think you should not rinse it off, if you see what I mean. I think it's all dependent on how you feel and your skin, but I'm going to do a whole video on that, I think, because it's quite I think people are confused as to how to use micellar water, and so I'll talk about that. But I use it kind of as a toner, just to kind of take any traces of dirt off. So I use that in the morning, and then, actually, sorry, before I go on, I will say this in my micellar video, and I said it in my pH video, I went for years without using any water on my face, and I've started to research about micellar already to try and find out what is the issue, why do people think it should be washed off. And there's a lot of blogs out there and a lot of people going, why would you not wash your face every day? And I didn't realise it was so usual, if that makes sense. I've never thought of myself as being abnormal by not washing my face. It's just, I suppose, something I've never really ever discussed. The only thing I would say is my friend was the same. I remember she used to use an Anne French cleanser and then moisturiser. In fact, I think she's the same now. I don't think she washes her face. And my skin is definitely the best when I don't use water. And of course, water has it's alkaline, neutral if it's pure, but very few people live in a soft, pure water area. And my skin has definitely been the best whenever I don't use water. And particularly if I had breakouts, when I had very bad acne prone skin, the minute I had a spot come up that was, in its beginning stages, I would stop using any face wash. Even over the last few years, since I've sort of dabbled in face washes, etc., I would stop using them, because if I did, it would spread and I would get another spot and another spot and another spot. It'd end up in a cluster. Whereas if I stopped immediately washing my face, it would be that one spot and it would go away. So I just wanted to let you guys know that in case anybody is battling acne out there, it's maybe worth a try. Usually after that I would just go in and put my SPF lotion on. That would be my preferred method. But I don't mind putting a vitamin C beforehand. I would prefer to use a vitamin C in the evening. At the moment I have got the vitamin C 23%, which doesn't react well on my skin, but I'd like to try mixing it with a couple of other products. I've tried it with the hyaluronic acid and it didn't do anything to prevent the stinging. It was proper stinging, not just, you know, tingling. But I've got the 3 derivatives, and so ideally I'd like to use one derivative in the morning and a different one in the evening. And I have explained in the mixing products together why I think you should use vitamin C at night, but actually I think either way it's useful. There are risks either way, you know. So I am using my magnesium ascorbate phosphate, 12% I think it is, no 10% from The Ordinary. I'm using that after my micellar water. So immediately after my micellar water with no rinsing, I put this on my skin, just because this sits really nicely under makeup. And I'm using so many products in the evening, and although it's not pH dependent or anything like that, I feel like once you start layering too many products on your skin, there's going to be too much dilution, and also there's then the chance of it balling up, and then you end up taking some of it off, and it just doesn't feel nice, I think, when you put too many on. The Ordinary recommends you don't use more than 3 at once, so that's what I'm trying to stick to, and I agree with that. I think that 2 or 3 is best. So I use this after my simple micellar water, and then I go in with my SPF immediately. I don't do any weighting or anything like that. There's no weighting required from the pH point of view in the morning, because I'm not using any water. I'm not using anything that is over a pH of 7. I've tested my micellar water. I think this is about a 5 or 6. I've got my strips here, let me see. That's nearer to a 6. So there's nothing that I'm using that is alkaline, so I don't need to wait. So I am then using this at the moment. It's the simple Kind to Skin Protecting Moisture Cream, SPF 30, UVA, UVB, so it's broad spectrum. And yeah, I really like this. This I think is good for normal skin, probably dry skin, but I'm not sure because my skin isn't extremely dry at the moment, and slightly oily skin. If you've got very oily skin, I don't think you'll like this, because when this has been in my drawer for a while unused, because I used it once when I had very oily skin and I didn't like it. It did make me feel as if my makeup was getting a bit oily. I needed really matte moisturizers when I was oily, but now it's absolutely perfect. When this runs out, I will use either my Body Shop Vitamin E SPF 30, or I will use my Neutrogena oil-free one, which funny enough does give me enough moisture as well. SPFs are an area I need to research. I need to do some investigation. I need to decide if I want to use a chemical or a mineral sunscreen, and what my concerns are with SPFs, and find some favourites, you know. And so of course I'll do a video when I find all that information out, but for now I've got enough products to use up. So that's me done in the day. I would then go on to do my makeup. It's going to be a long video because we're only at morning skincare and that's not the most complex. Okay, I'll try and speed it up a bit. So for makeup removal, I would never use just a micellar water to remove my makeup, because I would literally go through about 10 cotton pads. But it depends how much makeup you use. If you use a BB cream and a little bit of eyeshadow and lip gloss, I think you should be fine. But for me, obviously I use foundation, blusher, bronzer, eyeshadow, eyeliner, mascara, all the rest of that. So to remove my makeup, and I'm going to talk as if I'm not using face wash, because I only occasionally do that anyway. So I'm not going to go through the face washes that I use, because I've got so many different ones in there, and yeah, I just don't get through them. But what I do is I will use an eye makeup remover. This is the simple Kind to Skin Dual Effect eye makeup remover. This is my favourite eye makeup remover. It just seems, it's an oil and water combination, and it does seem to take off eye makeup without dragging. So I will use that on my eyes, or my Garnier 2-in-1, which is basically another oil and water mixture, and you can use it on your whole face, but I think it's going to be discontinued. And then I'll use some kind of cleansing milk on my face with a cotton pad to take everything else off. It does take quite a few cotton pads to get my makeup off with the 2 of these, even though they are really good. But that's just the way I have always done it, and so it's not something that bothers me. I've always used a creamy cleanser to take off kind of the first swipe of makeup, or the first lot of makeup, and then I've gone in with some kind of toner or some kind of like the Clean and Clear thing that I used to use. So I'll use those two, and then I go over with my micellar water just to take off any residue, and because that is sort of creamy and the eye makeup remover is oily, to take off the residue of that. You can see I need to buy another bottle of this today, I think. Then after that, because I have not used water, I don't need to wait for my skin to go back to its normal pH. My skin should still be at the highest about a 6, because I pH test my products as much as I can with litmus paper. It's not a digital meter, so it could be out by a few points, but I don't need to sit and wait for my skin to readjust, but I can use a pH adjusting toner if I want to. If you're wondering what I'm talking about, I talk about all of this in the pH video, the pH levels and skincare video, and it only applies really if you want to use pH dependent products and acids or vitamin C's. I'm currently not using any vitamin C at night, although that would be my preference, and I will, once I've used some of these products, switch or add in or use instead some of the vitamin C derivatives I've got. I want to use the vitamin F, but I'm not using it at the moment because I'm just using too many products at night, and these are what I'm testing. So one of the things I'm testing after my micellar water is I want to put salicylic acid on my chin. This is the salicylic acid 2%, and I want to see if this will get rid of those white bumps under my skin there, or these tiny little whiteheads that I discussed. And so although I said in my pH video that I'm not going to pH adjust, where it made my skin dry was around here, and I tried the alpha lipoic acid, which I think was the last straw by using a pH adjuster and then using that. But my chin was actually okay. It wasn't peeling and dry, just in this bit in the middle. So I'm going to pH adjust my chin by using the 2% BHA liquid from Paula's Choice. So I just put some on a cotton wool and swipe over my chin and literally wait a few seconds, a minute at most. And then I will put a little bit of this salicylic acid on. You don't need much of this at all. You literally don't even need a drop of it. One drop of this, it's so silky feeling, you could probably put it all over your whole face. And I really do just want to concentrate it on my chin. So that's what I'm going to be testing, and we'll report back in 1 month, 2 months. I'll have a look at 1 month, and if I see results, I'll do a video. Yeah, if I see results, I'll do a video, because I'm going to do a video on acids in general. If I don't see results, I'll wait another month, because I think this will last a long time, I have to say. And somebody was saying, oh, it's the only one that comes in a small bottle, but I think this will last longer than any of my other products because you need so little. Then I'll do a video at 2 months and say, look, I've seen no results from this. I'm not going to continue using it for that. For my fine lines around here, and for the eyebrow pulling in, if you like, that could eventually bring back I do normally have a line here. And I did, you know, say 7 or 8 years ago when I started Botox, if I pulled my eyes in, I had a big 11's line. But I've had so much Botox over the years that it has obviously weakened the muscle, and I don't have as much of a problem there. But for that and for my fine lines, I am currently trialling Azurylene. I have done my 1 month Azurylene update, which should have been published by the time I do this video, and actually I missed out saying I would put this around my eyes in the morning, because you need to use this morning and night. This is the 10% solution, so I just put the tiniest drop, although I have used quite a bit, but I put the tiniest drop here, a little drop here, and then a little bit in the middle here, and so I'm just sort of rubbing it in around my eye areas and then and then I just wait for it to dry before putting on my SPF and vitamin C, etc. So I do that at night as well. So that is around my eye area. Where am I? Okay, put that back there. And then on this part here where I've got my pores, and also that one little, like I said, I don't know whether it's milia or what it is, but that hard little white lump, I am using azelaic acid. And I really, really like this. The only thing is I don't know whether this will last the full month. Actually, this would be something that I would be happy to repurchase. Like I said, you can see there's not much left, so I don't know whether it will last the month. Maybe, because I am only using it, I'm using it here on my pores. That's what I'm going to test it out on my pores, and I am using it over my nose to try and catch that little bump and see if it works on that little bump, that little white lump. I will try and take some photos of it. In fact, I have done photos of my pores. I just forgot to sort of turn my head to the side and take a picture of that. so that I can compare, but I only put it in my calendar yesterday because, like I said, there's a difference between me just using products to see how they feel and then going, right, now it's time to properly test them. So I was using this as a primer. Some of you will know I don't think I said in the video, but I think I said in a couple of comments, I was using this as a primer because I wasn't using any products in the morning except my SPF, so I was just putting it on top of my SPF, and it felt like a lovely primer. But I'm not using it as a primer now simply because I have the 2 ordinary primers that I am testing out. So I use that in that area. Missed one step to show you on my chin. Once a week I'm going to use this AHA 30%, BHA 2% mask. So this area is going to get a bashing, so I'll see how tough my skin is, how much it affects those little white bumps, because like I said, I'm going to use the BHA liquid to pH adjust, then I'm going to use the salicylic acid, and then I'm going to use this once a week as a mask just on my chin and see how we get on with that. Then onto my neck. I don't have much hope for my neck. There's not any one product that I think that may work on my neck. The only thing possibly is Buffet, but I just think the wrinkles in my neck are they're too deep and too ingrained, and you can't actually even have, well, not you can't have Botox, but it's very difficult to get rid of these lines, and especially the way you hold your head. And with me, it's aging and it's weight gain that has caused them to be more pronounced, if you like. But I have had them since being a teenager, so they're also genetic. But I have noticed a bit of a texture change, so I would like to see a texture change. And so what I'm using on my neck is retinol and retinoid. There is no reason at all for you to use both of these. I am using both of these because I bought this, I repurchased this because I prefer the feel of this, but as you know from my video, I believe this to be very weak. I don't believe it to be, it's not as, I think from hearing a lot of feedback now, it's not as weak as I initially thought, because some people have had peeling from this, which really surprised me. But this one is super strong in the terms of the peeling, and I know most people have found the same. People have had real problems with this retinol. Even though technically retinol is weaker than retinoid, this is a retinoid ester, so we don't know which is strongest out of these two, but this one is proven. And like I said, I had bought it, but I have been using it once a week on my neck, and I used it last night and it's absolutely fine this morning, but I would think by tomorrow morning it will probably be a bit red and a bit itchy. I can't use it more than once a week. I actually really need to use it once a fortnight. So I'm going to use this occasionally. And on the nights I don't use this on my neck, I'm going to use my retinoid, 2% retinoid. And so with the combination of those, I'm going to see what happens in 1 month, 2 months, etc. I don't, to be honest, expect to see much of a result on my neck from these two, because I have already been using retinoid on my neck and didn't see any results from that. And I think I went for the whole year with that, although I wasn't using it consistently, because you don't use it, when I say consistently, I wasn't using it every night, certainly. I was using it once a week, and that was Retin A. But I wouldn't expect to see a result from retinoid for 6 months to a year. And so with retinol, I certainly wouldn't expect to see results, especially if I'm using it once every fortnight, in under a year really. So I don't expect to see much going on my neck, but I will take the photos and do the review anyway, and let you know how I get on. And then that's everything that I've used sort of in different areas, if you like. So I've got the argireline around my eyes, I've got the azelaic acid in the middle portion of my face here, and then I've got the salicylic acid on my chin and the retinol and retinoids on my neck. Once I finish using the argireline around my eyes, because I've already done the 1 month update, didn't see much of a result. If I don't see much at 2 months or when my argireline runs out, I will start putting retinol, retinoid or differin around my eyes. I've not decided which yet. I'll see what I've got left, how I'm feeling at the time, what it's been doing to my skin. Bizarrely, the retinol around my eyes doesn't have as drastic an effect as it does on my neck. It just shows you everybody's skin is different, and even every part of your skin is different, because my neck freaks out at the retinol, but my eyes seem to be fine. So as I said in my pH video, where I've put acids on the skin, I do like to wait, if I can be bothered, have the time, etc., just 15-20 minutes if I can, where the acids have been applied. So because I put salicylic acid on my chin, I do try and wait. I have been trying to wait the sort of 15-20 minutes, and I've got a big vanity case with my skincare in that I keep at the side of me, and so I just wait, and I wait with my whole face. I'm not gonna try and put it on separate bits of my face unless my skin is feeling really tight. So last night my skin was feeling quite tight, so I thought I'm going to do the rest of my face and just leave my chin, and then in 15 minutes I'll just sort of move some of the product onto my chin. So the next thing I would do after I've waited for a while is put on either Buffet or hyaluronic acid. You can see I've used quite a lot of both of these. I'm a little over halfway with the Buffet and also the hyaluronic acid. I like both of these. I think they feel lovely on the skin. And the Buffet I have been putting on my neck and right the way down my chest. And also around my eyes, because the argireline is making my eyes a bit dry and flaky. And I found that by using a bit of Buffet, it helps with that. It just seems to give a little bit of moisturization to my skin. So I'm using this on my neck as well. So when I do my neck update, if there is one, if there's any change, it would be looking at the combination of retinol, retinoid and Buffet. If my skin was super dry or dehydrated, I would use the hyaluronic acid instead of the Buffet. So that's why I have that in the routine. It just depends on how my skin is feeling. And I think that's a good way to be, you know, see what your skin is doing and adjust accordingly. And then the final step after that, although that seems like a lot of steps, if you think there's still only 2 layers on all of my face, because I've got the salicylic acid and then the Buffet. I've got azelaic acid, then Buffet, argireline, then Buffet, retinoid or retinol, then Buffet. And then I either put the rosehip oil on my face and follow it with my night cream, or I'll mix the two together. The reason I'm using the rosehip oil is because I think it's the most unstable. I've got rosehip and I've got argan, and they're both unstable oils, and so I need to use them up pretty quickly. So I'm trying to use this one up, and then once I've gone through all of my oils, I'll decide which one I'll use again. That said, I've already ordered a second bottle of the argan oil, but I haven't opened it. I've still got a little bit left of my other one. So argan oil would perhaps be my choice, but I would like to get to enjoy the squalane because it's the most stable and really good for you. But at the moment I don't enjoy it, but I'm going to experiment with that once this and my other argan oil has run out. So that's why I'm using that. I've got over the fish smell. Last night I used it and didn't even notice, and I can barely smell it now. So I still haven't found any further information on whether it's smelling like fish means that it is gone off. I'm not sure, because I did have a quick look into it after that video where I mentioned it, and somebody told me that it wasn't the pie one. I don't think it was the pie one. It was the pie one actually, and somebody said to me that they used the pie one and it smells light and fruity, and that started me thinking, because it's only one comment I had read that said about the fishy smell meaning that it was off, and I was worried about it, but it didn't really make sense to me because not everybody thinks it smells of fish. My husband cannot smell a hint of fish in this at all, and even now me smelling it, it doesn't smell like fish, which is really strange to me, because when I first opened it, I would have thought I was in a fish factory. I mean, it really smelled very strong. But the fact that not everybody can smell that makes me think it doesn't smell of fish. It's just our interpretation of the smell. So anyway, that's why I was looking at it. But then I read the pie website and it made perfect sense. The pie rosehip oil is a rosehip fruit oil. It's not a rosehip seed oil. This is rosehip seed oil, 100% rosehip seed oil, which is different than taking it from the fruit. There's the fruit and there's the seed, and so they're two different things. So it makes sense that that one would smell different. Right. That's all I've got to say about that. The other one that I'm showing you, I showed you in my emergency dry skin treatment, and since using it on that day, I've just put it in my bag as my night cream, because what I had pulled out was my pot of Nivea, but I've got a Nivea cream that is the one that is the Bobbi Brown eye cream dupe, and actually when I use that on my face, I feel like I've got a tiny little spot there, and I feel like that happened because I used that as a night cream, but also with it being in a tub, I had kept meaning to transfer it to an airless pump or something like that, and I do like using that as a night cream, as an eye cream, sorry. But when I use it as a night cream on my face, it doesn't react well. So once I used this, I was like, I'm just going to use this again. It's really interesting. It's got a kind of bag inside it, and then a pump, and so in the end, you just have a little crinkly bag and a really clean bottle. But this is the La Roche-Posay Tolerian Ultra Intense Soothing Care. There is a fluid of this. This is a very, I'll show you what it's like. It's, well, you've seen it if you've watched the other video, but it's a thick lotion, I'd say, almost a cream. A nice scent, but it's not highly scented, but there is a fluid, and I did like the feel of the fluid, but it stung my eyes. So there are some La Roche-Posay products that I can't use and some that I absolutely adore. It's a bit of a hit and miss for me, but this is one of my favourite, definitely. Yeah, I think this is going to be an hours long video, isn't it? But like I said, this is what I'm trialling at the moment. So I'm going to report back to you guys on how the azelaic acid is with pores, if it works on pores and if it works on that white lump. If the salicylic acid combined with the BHA mask once a week works on those tiny little whiteheads under my chin, whether or not the retinoid, retinol and buffet work on my neck, whether or not the azurulene works on my fine lines, and hopefully I'll look 10 years younger in 2 months time. I've got a lot more ordinary videos to do. I am getting the foundation. I ordered it as soon as it was on the website. I signed up on both the US and the UK for the notification and went and ordered 3 colours, because that's the great thing about the Ordinary, but also the dangerous thing is they're so inexpensive. So because it was, what is it, a £5, I was like, well, I'll just get 3 colours and see which one suits me. And so that's what I've done. So hopefully they will be coming out soon. I don't know if anybody's received them, but I've definitely ordered them, but they were on pre-order. I'm going to do a video on the Ordinary acids. I will do a separate video on the alpha lipoic acid. That won't be included in that. Yeah, couple of videos. I can't think what else I've got on my list to do, but oh, the matrixyl and buffet, I might combine that as one video. Comment. Okay, that's everything for today. What have I achieved today? What I've achieved is something small. What I'm proud of today is I used a colour on my eyes out of the Too Faced Natural Love palette that I didn't know if I would like or not. And usually when I get an eyeshadow palette, I'll find 3 or 4 or 5 colours that I like, depending on how big the palette is, and stick to them. And I really want to try and use all the colours in the palette and experience the whole palette. And I think sometimes you can get surprises that way, you know. So I do actually like the colour. It's a Too Faced Natural Love. Like I said, I do like the colour on my lid. I didn't like the outer corner colour that I used. I didn't think I would, and I didn't. But I'm proud of myself for at least stepping out of my comfort zone and trying it. So let me know what you're proud of, or what you feel you've achieved today, this week, whatever. On my face I have got, it's the number 7 Super Light Foundation. I'm not loving it, which is probably why it's been sitting in my drawer and I haven't been using it that much. It just seems to disappear from my nose. And I have got on the primer from the Ordinary today. Anyway, what else? On my cheeks I used Makeup Geek blush in Romance. On my lips is Stila liquid lipstick in Caramello, and I think that's everything. Yeah, that's everything. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in my next video.